And looks like you guys are having a lot of fun with it based on the participation. So why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and take ourselves a lunch here. Let's go ahead and go till about 2:15 Eastern time. 2:15 Eastern time. So that's about 40 minutes approximately there, looks like. Um, okay, so I guess we've been going for approximately 3.5 hours. Time's flying by when you're having fun, but we've got more to cover here. So I want to kind of keep on this road. For those of you that had questions about setups, entries, exits, feel free, go ahead and type this in. Type those in now, and we will go ahead and resume here at 2:15 Eastern. And we'll kick off then with those rounds of questions and the next ones that we have to answer that were already your questions up here. Okay, so with that said, have fun, gang. We'll see you in just a little bit. I'm going to turn off the recordings and see you at 2:15 Eastern. Glad you guys are having fun with it. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks, Lance. We'll see you in just about 40 minutes there.
Okay.
Okay, gang. Well, welcome back to the festivities here. Hope you guys went ahead and had a great little break there for a few minutes. We've already been going 3.5 hours or so approximately strong in this presentation. Thank you very much for all the very nice comments that you've given to myself and Lance here during the break. Very nice of you. I'm glad that this is, exactly, what's helping some of you with those aha moments. Lance, are you back there?
Yep, I'm back.
Super. Well, let's go ahead and get a couple of housekeeping items out of the way first there. You're very welcome there, gang. Appreciate that. First of all, the most important, afternoon topic here is really, what does Paris look like? So let's go ahead and show the world what Paris looks like. So that's been our power charting mascot this morning, who's been making sure she keeps Lance, on the right side of the trade, and goes ahead and, he behaves himself over there. So that is the cuddly and cute little Paris. Okay, so just had to get to the important stuff first. And now we'll go ahead and focus on, those secondary issues like trading. So let's go ahead and, we had actually different questions that had came in here. What I think I want to do to start off is actually revisit a topic that we ended up temporarily having a glance over earlier. It's actually right before the setup section, and that was on trader growth. Okay, so what I want to do is just start off with covering trader growth, then we'll go back to the setups and then kind of reconvene with those questions, and then pick it right on up through, of course, entries, exits, scaling, and so on and so forth. Okay, so Lance, with that being said, what metric do you use to know, so really what did you use to know that you were ready to go from conservative to conservative aggressive trades? I know that there are a lot of people who have been here for several months and or longer, of course, and are in that phase right now. They're asking themselves, how do I know? It's like, wow, okay, this is great. I'm taking these trades, but it's, what do I do now? Do I start just taking those? Do I go to very aggressive? Can I do both? Why don't you talk a little bit more? I see your brief answer here, but if you could expound on these sections a little bit more deeply for this answer, that'd be great.
Well, for me, I use your indicators for the conservative aggressive trades. So I mean, understanding those thoroughly, and also the, when it also breaks through those volume spread analysis areas is one of the main things that I look at, and also it's being able to withstand the heat of a conservative aggressive trade when it goes against you, because I mean you're entering a conservative aggressive trade pretty much preparing to have to continue to enter contracts as the trade goes against you. So you know you have to be mentally ready for it. Also, your count has to be large enough to withstand the scale-ins that you're going to have to do as it does go against you, and it's it's surprising how much it really takes to actually scale in when it starts going against you.
Well, and we're going to talk about scaling. We're actually going to pull out the trading scaling calculator, and we're going to actually talk about those things in just a few minutes, because it is important for every person to understand their limitations as it relates to scaling. So that's going to be an exciting portion coming up here in just a little bit. But so now understanding the MTF indicators. Okay, so you went ahead and watched the 5.5-hour video and also pay attention to how I use them here, and I assume that you've gone ahead and done a lot of off-hours studying with them as well, kind of looking at them in off hours and seeing which patterns make the most sense to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have. I mean, and it's for me, I don't know if a lot of people use the more shorter time frames as far as down to 2 minutes, but I don't ever use those. I mean, I'm sticking with the higher time frames where everything's aligning through the hourly down through the 5 minute and making sure there's a trend there. So I mean, that's I am selective as far as that. I'm not going to be overly aggressive and try to jump on a 2 minute time frame.
Okay. So there you go. There's a little tidbit from Lance. Lance does not use that 2-minute chart to take those more scalping-related trades, if you will, where he's going in for a couple of ticks on a more rapid chart. Maybe that's something for a couple of you to think about. See if that makes sense to you. Okay. Then basically another part I heard you talk about, you said like my VSA type setup, which is almost the anti-VSA type setup. Do you rate that as a conservative, aggressive, or very aggressive trade, just to make sure that I understand and that the group understands where you're coming from as it relates to that particular trade?
Well, I mean, when I'm looking at it as far as entering on that type of trade, I mean, I'm looking at it as being a conservative, aggressive trade. I mean, it's
Okay, because really the retracement trade is the one that you consider to be your most favorite conservative trade.
right.
Okay, great. So in your mind then, when do you graduate? Have you graduated? When do you consider a small contract trader, small lot trader if they're trading stocks? When do you consider that they've graduated? Is it dollars, cents? Is it all about how much heat you can take? Is it the specific number of dollars in your account, or how you act as a trader? Where does your head go?
I think it's more of how you act. I mean, it's the discipline that you can maintain and wait for that right trade to set up. I mean, of course, other factors do play into it a lot, but I mean, the discipline is really the key, I think. I mean, for me.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there for a moment and re-emphasize that comment, because I agree with that 1,000% and more. Every day almost, it seems like I use the analogy here, gang. If I had to start all over again tomorrow, okay, you guys have heard me say that it seems like almost every day. If I had to start all over again tomorrow, I'd focus on, the more conservative trades, right? So I'm seeing some yeses and you agrees. So the point is that I can have a small account and still act like a professional. And each and every one of you here better get that and this through your head. Any one of you could have millions and millions and millions of dollars here and still act like a small contract, aka junior trader, okay? Just because you got a big old portfolio doesn't mean you're a big man or big woman on campus. All it means is you have the risk of losing your money that much deeper, that much faster. Okay, so I really want to go and emphasize that your professionalism. When does a trader graduate from a small contract trader? Well, if they have that professionalism, if they treat every trade like a professional market decision and not putting, the quarters in the coin slot, as I was sharing with you earlier, going bing, 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 and playing like a shoot 'em up arcade game, or any number of other types of arcade games out there. When you start treating every trade, regardless of contract size and how many points you plan to make on that trade, and et cetera, when you trade as a professional decision and not I'm taking this trade out of boredom, I'm going to go ahead and go for 10 ticks on this, and then 5 ticks into it starts to reverse, and you're sitting there saying, I don't care, I'm going for 10 ticks. Market's got to give me what I want. And all the other junior trader mistakes that many of you have made out there, okay, when you get past that, okay, then you're starting to graduate from the small contract trader level, both psychologically and likely financially, is my guess. And Lance, I think that's what happened with you. You started to get away from the petty decisions, the petty treatment of your trading, and you started to get more serious about it and getting more disciplined, getting more focused, and then you were able to go ahead and build your account, not just because you could trade more contracts, but the only way you were able to trade more contracts in part was by trading and doing well with your trading. That helped build your account up, and so I think there's the one kind of helps the other. I think that's what you saw as well, correct? That good trading decisions help build your account, which then gives you an opportunity to potentially go ahead and trade more size, and then it can feed upon itself from there. But it all starts with professional trading decisions. Is that correct from your opinion?
Yeah, it's definitely a stepping process. I mean, you have to really just master the discipline level first, because I mean, if you're sitting there antsy trying to take a trade all the time, I mean, you haven't got to that point yet. I mean,
and yet that's where Lance, I every once in a while I get the whiny baby syndrome. Oh, I've only got 1 or 2 contracts to trade. I can't do that. Newsflash, people, okay, that have that kind of mentality. All right, I see a couple of you laughing, but it's true. Sometimes people are like that. Those are the people that just can't. They can't see the forest, beyond the trees, and or the trees in the forest, however you want to say it. Bottom line is they can't see, very far in front of them. Very short-sighted individuals. If they acted like a professional, traded like a professional, focused on the higher probability, lower risk trades, then they might have a chance at growing their account. But instead, they want to be big man or big woman on campus right out of the box, try to be like Rob, and then they get themselves into a jam because they're not Rob, and they go ahead then and give back all that hard work and effort. And so the reality is a lot of this is the discipline to wait for the right trades, because if you have a small account and you want to build it and you can't take a lot of heat because it is a small account, then more importantly, and Lance, if I recall correctly, this is what you did. You eventually start, after you realize, oh, I can't do those conservative, aggressive, and very aggressive trades. That's not Rob's fault. I just can't, because that's not where I'm at with my ability, both financially and emotionally. So you went ahead and you focused on like the conservative, like retracement trades, and that was like your quote unquote bread and butter, correct?
yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I mean,
So it was the discipline and the bread and butter type setup there that helped you build your account. Something I talk about here all the time is focusing on the 1 or 2 setups. But see, as you went through initially, Lance, remember you went through that phase that a lot of the junior traders go through, if not every junior trader is, well, gosh, I'm used to coming from trading rooms where they'll trade 5, 6, 7, 10 times a day. Hey, they may not make any money, but hey, I was entertained. Well, Rob is giving me all this great information, but that's boring. Great information is boring. That's not fun. I just want to see the next trade. I don't care until you lose enough money in your account, then you unsubscribe from that person, and then you go somewhere else. Well, me, I'm just going to focus on giving great information and doing really great with my trading, and if a person's stuck in junior trader mode where they can't recognize the discipline, and what I'm saying is so important by what I'm saying. If I have the knowledge I have now, you give me a small account and I can go ahead and build it again. I just won't take nearly as many trades as I'm taking now. I'll focus more on those conservative trades to build my account and earn my way back up to conservative, aggressive, and very aggressive trades. Fraser says, all of that you just said is exactly what I've gone through and agree entirely. So, also Evelyn asked, Lance, do you use the tone, lock, and fire indicators? And Evelyn, I'll answer that one on Lance's behalf, because the short answer is yes. That's what these tone, lock, and fire indicators are, is the MTF indicators. The power charting MTF indicators, multi-time frame indicators, which includes the tone, lock, fire, and thrust. Okay? So yes, Lance does it. And so what Lance said just a few minutes ago, Evelyn, was that he uses those to help with his conservative aggressive entries. Okay, so I hope that second part that I tried to go ahead and get to everybody here, let me clear that other part off, is making a lot of sense, because it seems like it's going to be a rite of passage for every trader to get through. Some traders get through it fast. Some traders get through it fast and they quickly realize, okay, I get it. I understand, less trades is more, and they'll make that fast. Other people, they've got a semi or quasi-gambling addiction, and they need that adrenaline rush. Like our friend Drosso, he openly, and his mom's in here right now, I think they may both be in here, they'll openly admit, Dross, feeds off that adrenaline. Yep, here he is. He says, yep. So, he openly admits it, and that's why he came to sit with me for 2 days up in Chicago here last week, because he understands that he knows he needs to fix the problem, and he learned a lot by just sitting there watching me, watching my physiology about how calm, cool, and collective I was in person, not just over the internet, so you guys aren't seeing me fidget around here and act all weird and do crazy things. At least nothing I'm willing to tell you guys about over the internet. No, seriously. But the point is that he saw live and firsthand, right in front of me here. And see, Dross saying, even when I was bored, I'm not sitting there tapping and banging and screaming and freaking out. I'm just sitting there calm, cool as can be, waiting for that next professional decision to appear. In the meantime, the only professional decision is to sit on my hands. That's what separates me. And I say this all the time, and everybody always comes, not everybody, but a lot of people come up with the same silly response, which is, no, the fact that you got all that money separates you from the junior traders. No. It's the psychology. It's the perspective. It's the discipline I have. That's what got me to where I'm at. And that's why I say, you take me back, you give me that small account, I'll just take less trades, and I'll build my account slowly. If I had to start all over again, I say that, and I try to emphasize that to get people to understand. All having a big account does is mean you can make a lot bigger and more stupid mistakes. Lance found that out himself the hard way. It wasn't even really a stupid mistake. It was a silly mistake. He was able to grow his account, but he forgot to up his risk margins. He had a fixed level before, and so after a couple of ticks against him, he got blown out of a trade that was a perfectly good trade. In fact, one tick beyond his trade, it went right back his way. It was only a few ticks against him, but he went ahead and he got blown out of that trade because he forgot to up his margins, because he had set a much lower margin, which was fine when he had a much smaller account. But then when he grew his account, and so he calls me one day and says, Rob, you're never going to believe what I did. And so the point is, all having a big account does is allow you to make bigger mistakes. Okay, so it's amazing how many people envy my position, but I worked extremely hard, and that's why I said, to those of you, I brought Lance in because he's a real student, just like you guys are, and he's been going through these trials and tribulations and growing his account, and he's doing what a lot of people think I don't understand anymore, which is so untrue. I know because I work with you guys. I got hundreds of students now, and I've worked with many, many thousands of students over time, over the last several years, long before power trading was ever around. I've got 4,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. You can imagine all the emails I get from those junior traders. Hoy, 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 hoy. You guys are light years ahead of them. And so the point is that I understand the mentality. I've been there, I've done it, I've bought the postcard, and it shouldn't be called Hallmark cards, it should be called Hoffman cards, because I can write the card better than anybody else can, okay? So that's a really huge learning opportunity. Those who choose to get that and understand, oh, okay, it's not my account size, it's what I do with my account size that's going to separate me from the pack. Lance figured it out. Many of you have figured it out, but I want all of you to figure it out, okay? And so that's what I'm doing, trying to reach out today with this presentation and bringing in someone, else besides me, one of my students, one of you, who's in that spot, who says, I got it, I figured it out, hopefully that really helps give more than a few of you aha moments. And I know several of you commented earlier, you have been having aha moments today, and I hope that you get a lot more throughout this process. Lance, as we look at the last part of this trader growth segment here, it says, has Lance grown comfortable trading when Rob is not around and being successful on his own? Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because how you like to stand on your own 2 feet, but at the same time you value my opinion, and how your perspective is when you're not with me in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it's I definitely take trades on my own. I mean, it's the retracement trades are I mean, after you learn what to look for on those, I mean, you'll always take those. I mean, the conservative aggressive trades, I mean, it's I'm feeling more and more comfortable all the time with those. I mean, it's still a learning process, and I always want to get Rob's opinion when I feel that it's still a learning process for me in those type of trades, and I always want to make sure that I get each and every day to get his input on the markets. I mean, it's just it helps you as far as just learning the markets and knowing what to look for, and I mean it's just a continuing education each and every day.
Well, that's actually a good point, Lance. We've talked about it. We have a lot of my students that have been here since before power charting was ever power trading, so long before you were ever with me, Lance. But as you've seen, Lance, even just in the time you've been here, let alone those that have been with me, the last couple of years, if you think about it, look at the markets and the dynamics of the markets that have gone ahead and changed over the last few years. We're going to talk Rob versus Truck here in a moment that Lance put. I figured out what he meant, and I clarified it with him, so I'll ask him, or we'll talk about that. But the market conditions change. Bear market, bull market, congestion markets, extraordinary news events, and there's lots of different tools to handle those different environments. For those of you that have been with me the last several years, you've watched us transition through and back to and away from and back to different tools, because you need to use the right tools at the right time for the right reasons. And so you trade at the right time, in the right place for the right reasons. You use the right tools, okay? Do I want to use a bull market strategy, in a bear market? No, and vice versa. So the Rob versus Truck goes back to the analogy that I use here all the time, which is, what happens if I go out and get hit by a truck, gang, or a bus? I don't want a bunch of trained monkeys. What I want is guys like Lance here, for instance, who learn from me, and then they just stay. If you're making money, why don't you just, there's no reason to leave, I mean, and and Lance actually is on the annual plan, right, Lance? I mean, you earlier this year went to the annual plan, and so Lance is saying, look, I want the long-term counsel. It's not just about making a whole bunch of money, figuring out a couple of things, and then leaving. He's saying, I want to learn and I want to keep growing, not just have a couple of tools in my toolbox. I still want Rob's counsel, even though I'm perfectly willing and able to take trades on my own, and he is taking trades on his own that he's learned from me. So that's the first part of that. But at the same time, he always goes and likes to think, how would I handle it? And he also wants to go and learn even more to a higher level of knowledge, and that's what really impresses me about Lance. Unlike a lot of junior traders that come in here and just want to be trained monkey, I actually turned a guy away just the other day who called me up. Nice guy, okay, in all fairness, really nice guy, but he's like, Rob, I can only be in your room for like an hour a day, so I really just want to come in and mimic your trades. And totally nice guy. I've got the emails to back up the conversation because it started, in a contextual format. And the reality was, I went ahead and told him that my room wouldn't be right for him because that's just not the kind of people that I want to go ahead and have in the room. I want people to actually learn and grow. Because what happens if I, as I always say, go out and get hit by a bus? And I'm sure that's what Lance meant by his analogy here, Rob versus truck. He wants to learn. In the end, Lance is giving back to our group here. It has given back, and I've specifically made money on trades that Lance has called out for me to look at, which is my work that he's identified. Okay, so that's the level of knowledge I want everybody to be able to get to, that they can support themselves, but that they choose to be here. And that's a win-win for everybody. And just like, here a few weeks ago with the guys like Pete and Chris and a couple of you were messaging me and calling me that night with the Japanese yen trades, that was over $3,800 between those 2 nights of trades that I would not have gone ahead and gotten. I would not have made that $3,800 had it not been for students calling me and texting me, alerting me that those setups were happening. So I raced back to the computer. For all of you that were logged in that night, then you got to watch me go to action, okay? And so the point is, that's the level I want everybody to achieve. So that if I do get hit by a truck, or if you guys know I travel a lot, be traveling to Las Vegas next month. I was supposed to travel to Malaysia here in 2 weeks, but the 30-hour plane flights just didn't appeal to me, so I'm going to do the conference distance learning. I'm going to speak over the internet to the group of Malaysians. But I fly a lot. Hey, you never know what can happen. So I want everybody to reach that level, because what happens, gang, when I'm gone? How many traders are out there trading live in their live accounts, making money consistently, and share that knowledge with other people? Your options are extraordinarily limited. And so I want everybody to be able to do it on their own, and then choose to be here and give back, and just be here to, like Lance is saying, bounce ideas off of me, and learn new tools and techniques. Okay, so from a trader growth perspective, that's a couple of different ideas here, and of course then that brings us back into the segment that we were talking about before we went to lunch earlier, and that is on the trading setups. Okay, so we went ahead, we talked through this, but there was a question again about the retracements as far as the distances. Again, on a 5-minute chart, Michael P., we really went ahead and I'm looking for a good 25, 30 plus ticks. It would be best. The more the merrier on any of these charts, but a 5-minute chart, because think in terms of my thrust pullback thrust. Well, now think of a reverse thrust pullback thrust. It's thrusting down into the support level. So certainly 25, 30 ticks are ideal for the 5-minute chart. 30 ticks or more. Okay, 30 ticks or more for the 15 and the 30-minute chart. Again, the more the merrier. I'm going to say that over and over again. The more, the better. If it's 80 ticks or 100 ticks, I'm going to be way more happy than if it's 30 ticks. But 30 ticks, 40 ticks, that's kind of a minimum threshold on the 15 and the 30. And then really 40, 50 ticks plus, for the hourly chart, and again, the higher the better, especially on something like that with the hourly chart. The more the market can move and retrace back into your key support or resistance level, the better. The more likely it is, the more probability there will be to go ahead and bounce initially off that support or resistance level. Okay? That was a question that I saw. Let's see, as we're talking about setups, trader growth, and a couple other topics we talked about earlier, the question was asked, Metul, not really. No, they're not the same for all instruments. It's going to be different levels for like the S&P, but for the currencies, those are basically the levels that I'm referring to. S&P is going to have different levels. Metul, what you need to do if you want to learn about the S&P, you can learn all about the S&P levels for that in the setups, entries, and stops video. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and you have that video, Metul, so you should catch up on that. But this is definitely the levels for like the currencies, okay, that I use.